Joining me now, the aforementioned Kentucky Congressman, Mr. James Comer, who is chair of the Oversight Committee. Jim Comer, welcome back. I'm sure you heard Brooke Singleton. I mean, one point, I know you have additional things to talk about, but one point that is so interesting to me, interesting quote unquote, is that Burisma wanted to come into the U.S. energy business one way or another, and this prosecutor in Ukraine was standing in the way. So what do? They go after flat-out bribery to the Bidens, who were in power at the time as vice president. I mean, to me, that rings so clearly. There's motive here, which, thanks to Brooks' reporting, I hadn't heard before.
Yeah, what the motive was, Larry, was they were wanting to enter into the U.S. energy market through an IPO, and they felt like they couldn't conduct an initial public offering if they were under investigation for corruption in Ukraine. So that's what it all pertained to. That's where the supposed bribe happened. That's why it happened, because they wanted to get rid of the prosecutor and try to clear up their name and have a Biden on the board so that they could do an initial public offering to try to show credibility as they try to expand the market. They also wanted to buy an existing energy company, and I believe it was in Texas, but I don't know the name of the company. So that was their whole business model, that to get their foot in the door, buy a company and do an IPO.
I had not heard that before, sir, honestly. Brooke Singleton's articles laid out, but the specific. So you're saying they're trying to do an IPO and maybe hook up with one of the Texas oil companies. That was the genesis, if you will. That was the motivating intent of this whole process, and they decided to do it the old-fashioned Ukrainian way. Just bribe the boss of the other country, right? That's what they do in Ukraine.
That's right. That's exactly that. And Ukraine has a history of that. They have a history of corruption. And, if you look at the countries where we're investigating the Biden family for taking money from foreign nationals, they all fit a pattern of countries with a history of corruption and a history of bribery.
Mr. Chairman, tell us now, you're looking, there may be more FBI 1023 documents out there? Right.
And that's why we postponed the motion to hold Director Wray in contempt. He decided hours before the vote that he would cooperate with us. Not only did he grant my whole committee access to that one 1023, he admitted what I've suspected all along, that there are other 1023s. So we know there are at least two more because they're somewhat referenced in the one that we read in footnotes. So this is something that's very important to my investigation. I know a lot of Republicans were saying, oh, you need to hold the FBI director in contempt. But my goal, Larry, is to get information. We're following the money. To follow the money, we have to find these bank accounts and find these shell companies where the Bidens were laundering money through their shell companies. And that's what the 1023 alleged, that they bragged that no one would ever find the bribe that they sent Joe Biden because they funneled it through so many different banks. So any additional information I can get is of the utmost importance to our investigation and for transparency's sake for the American people. So we're moving in the right direction on this investigation. I have more bank records that should be coming in any day now, and I'm waiting for the additional 1023 forms that Jamie Raskin and I will then be able to go in a classified setting and review.
Mr. Chairman, any hints, any sense, maybe from the confidential informant or the whistleblower, of what those additional 1023s may contain?
I think what you're going to see is they contain additional conversations from the informant about potential bribery by Joe Biden. The one that we looked at was dated in the summer of 2020, but we know that these conversations started as early as 2017. So there's a lot more to this story. And it's just like what I went through with the suspicious activity reports. They wouldn't let me in Treasury forever. They said, oh, there's nothing to see there. There's nothing to see there. Well, I go in there and we find out that there are 9 Biden family members that were getting wires from foreign nationals. We find out that these wires were taking place while Joe Biden was vice president. We find out that the Biden family got $1 million from Romania while he was vice president. Nobody knew about that. So we found out a lot of new information by getting access to the suspicious activity reports. I think the same thing's going to happen with these 1023s. And Larry, you have to understand, 2 weeks ago, Director Wray tried to imply to both Senator Grassley and I that there were no 1023s in existence in the FBI pertaining to Joe Biden and bribery. Now we're up to 3. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't find more.
The FBI story is untenable, absolutely untenable. Wray should be fired or he should resign. I mean, actually, the top 5 or 6 layers should resign, which is what I think Donald Trump, maybe other candidates, will do if a Republican is elected. Mr. Chairman, let me just ask you this. As your trail, you're hot on the trail, as this trail gets hotter and hotter, and the bribery scandal grows and the evidence points to it, does this not constitute an impeachable offense for President Biden?
Yeah, if we can trace bribery, it sure does. But look what we've already found, Larry. The Biden family has at least 20 shell companies that were created for the sole purpose to launder money to at least 9 Biden family members. When you create a bunch of shell companies for the sole purpose of laundering money, that's called racketeering. And the money laundering, those aren't my words. Those are the words of at least 6 big publicly traded banks that filed bank violations against the Biden family. They said it sure appears that they're money laundering. So these are some serious crimes that we've already uncovered, but there's still many more banks to go and many more shell companies that I think that we'll discover along the way.
All right, House Chairman, what is the official title? House Oversight.
Chairman of the House Oversight.
I was going to give you judicial, but you're Oversight. Oversight Committee Chair, James Comer. Jim Comer, thank you ever so much. Appreciate it, sir.
Thanks for having me.